Scott Russell, let's talk about sex today as a man. And I think we are seeing such an attack on that. And for me, as a middle-aged man that's single, I've discovered a lot. I've been confronted with a lot, and I've kind of had that situation where I've had women that are so used to being abused. They're so used to sex being the currency to control. Been offered houses to come and spend time with women, a night with women, cars, travel, just so much, so much. Even women that are like, I'm so wonderful, be with me. Women that are used to adultery, used to playing that game, and whether or not they go, how far they go with it, they want to know that you want that you want them, and they rage when they can't get control. And I think as men, to me, it's not about, every man loves sex, right? So it's not about that. It's about the intimacy of the heart. And it might sound a little unusual for a male to be saying this, but I think as males, we're looking for a safe place to be our all. And I like to say to abandon, to abide. Like with God, we abandon who we are to abide with Him. And in a relationship, it should be a case of, I feel safe here. I can abandon my guard. I can abandon my strength. I can abandon all that I am and abide with you. And together we come together in unity, in intercourse. And I believe today many of you that are listening to this have had sex, but you've never had intercourse of the soul, intercourse of the spirit. I know a lady I'm aware of a lady that I think has probably had a lot of experience in some of these areas. And I would go far enough to say to the lady that you never had intercourse of the soul, of the spirit. And it's always been a currency where people are doing to get. And women have been abused because they've allowed themselves to be abused. They think this is the way. So they're having sex to, please the man, to get what they want from the man, to get provided for from the man. If I give to him, I'll get from him. And women ultimately get the upper hand then, because then men are looking and saying, well, I need this, so I'm going to use this woman for sex. Who cares what comes out of this? And it becomes a transaction. And I think what's happened is we are seeing men who have given up their manhood to sexuality. I think pornography is part of that. And the reason why is, let's be honest, guys. Let's be honest. How many sets of knockers can you see? And people wonder, how come they can still be stimulated by that when it's just what it is? And I'll go further and I'll tell you, if you really are aware of who you are, you'll understand that it's not about that. It's about desire. And even though we may not register that as men, when you see that on the computer or whatever, a woman taking her clothes off, you think it's for you. You feel like that woman is desiring you in some way, and you desire her. And it's a transaction, and you're actually giving your strength to that. You're giving your soul to that. You're giving to the Bible says that a man is reduced to a crust of bread by a harlot. And men are given away their manlyhood, the essence of who they are. And I think many that struggle with pornography, struggle with sexual areas, it's because you've been abused, but you've been abused by probably a woman in your life of some kind who's very controlling. A woman who wants to dominate and has used sex to do that, or has used you're never good enough. And you think about it, when you're with a woman, a married relationship, and maybe as men you've struggled with pornography, or you've struggled with desire for other women. And in reality, when you're with your wife, or with whoever your partner that you're with, you never feel good enough. And so you think you have to try harder so that person wants to connect with you, because sex is an emptying. It's not a getting, it's a giving. It's a merging, a getting and giving. And I think what happens as men is we feed on that desire. So pornography then approaches it like men approaches it in a man's perspective to say, I have to try harder to please this woman, stimulate this woman. When she's happy, then she'll be happier with me. And that never happens because that's not how women are wired. And so, yeah, they can get a lust going. You can get the heat of passion going for a bit, but it's not true spiritual passion. It's just lust, which is a spirit, which ultimately is raping your soul. And so at the end of it, the woman feels empty, used, almost spiritually raped. But the man feels like not good enough. Like, well, I had a good time and it was great. We did some things, but I don't feel connected. I feel alone. I don't feel joined. And both are doing it, but they're coming from different angles. And I think God is very smart the way it happened, because he's showing us again that you might have had sex, but you've never had intercourse of the soul. You've never had intercourse of the spirit. And I believe people have sex and then they try to get down to having intercourse with the soul and the spirit, and you can't. You can't go that way. You can't backfeed it. It has to be the spirit has it first, intercourse of the spirit, then intercourse of the soul, then natural intercourse. And it's abandoning to abide. And I think there's that time where a woman and a man would come together and say, all that I am, I feel safe with you. All that I am, I empty into you. And all that you are, you're emptying into me at that time. And the merging of that, it's a spiritual thing first. Sex is spiritual first and foremost. And so people have sort of gone, since my marriage fell apart 5 years ago, and I'm not saying this for any other purpose than this video, is to say that I haven't been with a woman. And why? When I've had so many offers? Why when there's been so many opportunities? And it's really because the women that have offered it or wanted it it's been out of insecurity of saying, I want you to want me. But they don't know me. They don't know who I am. They don't know my spirit. They don't know my soul. It's just a transaction to try to get the upper hand to control, because I need a man in my life. And, pardon me, or their insecurity. They've been used by men and abused by men. I've had women say, well, I don't, give sex to my partner anymore because, we're not getting on. Right there tells you it's a transactional relationship. They're not married. They're not married truly in one sense. What they're doing is just using each other. And I think the challenge here and the call that goes out is to tell men today, rise up in what you are. Take back your sexuality and start to understand that if you've been giving your power and your essence to sex, pornography, women, you will always feel alone, you will never feel good enough, and you will always be putting yourself in situations and relationships of abuse of the soul. But as a man, as you start to rise up and say, you know what, this might be hard, I've got to break some patterns and some habits, but I'm going to stand strong and be the man that I'm going to be. I'm going to wait for a woman who's actually prepared to be in her complete feminine energy. She's not trying to take my male energy so she can dominate me, but she's actually saying, I'm surrendering all I am into you. And I'm surrendering all I am into her, a safe place. And at the end of it, you are merged. You are merged spiritually. And then it's not just a transaction, but it's a merging of the heart. And I believe the best way to say it is abandoning to abide. I'm abandoning who I am into you so I can abide with you together. And both are saying the same thing, which is what we do with God. When we have religion, we try to get God. We try to bring him in. We try to make it transactional. As long as I understand God and I get what I want from God, I'll have God. And God, I need you to do this. Transactional. Instead of saying, God, I abandon to abide. All that I am, God, all that I am, I give to you. The good, the bad, the ugly, everything. I give it to you. And God's going, all that I am, I give back to you. And as we have that unity of the Spirit, we come alive. We come alive. Life is just beautiful because you're completed. And so I just wanted to put that out there, men, to say, you might have had sex and you might have had 100 women, and you think you're a hero, but you've never had intercourse of the soul. You've never had intercourse in your spirit. where you've merged with someone, you've felt safe, and you're just saying, I'm safe here. All that I am is into you. All that you are is me, and all that I am is you. And you move as one. And I think people have touched on that, but to abandon, to abide in that is another thing. Men, abandon your pornography. Abandon your sexual deviations and sexual lusts and sexual, trying and striving to please her, and abandon it and abide. And when you abide and let yourself heal, let your soul heal, let your spirit heal, become a man, take a breath and start to be a man again. And as you spiritually, I'm talking about, not just having men's plumbing. Anybody can use their plumbing, right? But I'm talking about men, spiritual men, that are saying, I will not be with a woman just to be used. She might think you're using her. You're not. You're using yourself. You're destroying your own soul. But as we rise up in strength and say, this is not who I am, women, the same way. For a woman to say, I am wired for intimacy. I am wired to be in a safe place. I am wired for love, not to be used. Women don't want to just be used, lay there and just be used, like a starfish. But women want to be engaged. They want to be loved of the soul. They want to give all that they are into us. But we're not being that safe place because we take it and we've used it for other things, for our own pleasures. And now give me more, woman. Give me more. I need more of this. Instead of saying I'm emptying all that I am into you. So maybe I'm talking some strange talk, but you know I'm right. You know I'm right because some of you, probably most of us, have been there. All of us have been there. In relationships, in sexual relationships, marriages, when we feel empty, we feel lost, we feel alone, we feel unloved. Men are turning to things that they shouldn't be turning to try to get satisfied. Women are turning to control, domination, manipulation, because they're insecure and they want to know that this is okay. And so, I'll give this man as long as he does what I want. It's wrong. It's wrong. Emptying of the soul. And so I'd say a lot of those things, not even marriages. They're not marriages. They're just two people in a partnership to use each other to get ahead. I don't want that. I'm done with that. When I'm with somebody, it'll be a marriage. Will I give them my heart and soul? And they give me theirs because we're safe places. Does that mean that, well, you know what? When you're in that place, anything's possible. Anything can be created.